Okay, these are the notes for the first section of Chapter 2, the sales process. First off, who should sell? Now, a lot of people think that successful salespeople are just driven for money. And while money can be a great motivator and people can make a lot of money doing sales, what makes a successful salesperson is actually just drive and desire. It's the desire to win on a personal level. Now, there's a lot of ways that this can manifest itself in successful salespeople. Some salespeople put their emphasis on researching their customers. Others make lots of calls, increasing their opportunities for more sales. And others are closing specialists who know how to ask for the order and then get it. But whatever their individual strengths are in the selling process, the common thread among successful sellers is a belief in themselves and the will to win. You have to be motivated to go out and do the sales process because there's a lot of establishing relationships, a lot of rejection in the sales process, a lot of research that goes into it, and really, in many cases, you're going to be on your own in terms of setting up your schedule and making appointments and things like that. And you have to have the drive to be able to do the job and to do it well. Most lists of attitudes for winning salespeople begin with the word attitude. If you make that positive attitude and you found yourself then an essential quality for any salesperson. So you have to be motivated on a positive level. You can't go out there and beat yourself up all the time. You have to look at things on the bright side as much as you possibly can. Most people are under the impression that knowledge will directly lead to success, or that to have the better mousetrap is tantamount to having a lock on the market, says television sales trainer Martin Antonelli. When he cites attributes needed for selling, discipline is at the top of his list. Persistence and positive attitude are not far behind. So again, as we've been talking about, you have to have a certain amount of discipline, to have certain habits in place that you follow, your self-guided motivation, to be consistent and persistent. And again, positive attitude, very, very important in order to be a successful salesperson. Putting customers first. New selling strategies make us redefine phrases like product knowledge, which used to mean knowledge of the product being sold, but in the new selling environment means the advertiser's product, especially true in media selling. Because, again, people are not necessarily motivated to go out and buy advertising. They're motivated to go out and see an increased return in the product or service that they want to advertise. Very, very important distinction that we need to keep in mind. And with that in mind, we have to have that focus as salespeople to go out and help those customers be able to realize their goal of improving their bottom line by helping them to get more sales. The new message of selling is that the customer is the center of the selling relationship. The newest sales and motivation books have less to say about clever closing techniques than they do about mutual respect, collaboration, trust, and honor. So, again, focusing that idea on relationship, that you're dealing with people, and any sort of relationship has to have at the very basis of it an element of trust, whether it's a romantic relationship, an academic relationship, relationships with friends, relationships in the business world as well. If you don't have that trust and you don't have that respect, you really don't have much of anything going for you there at all. In a now classic 1964 article in the Harvard Business Review, What Makes a Good Salesman? David Meyer and Herbert Greenberg call empathy and drive the two essential qualities for a salesperson. Now, what is empathy? Empathy is the ability to feel what another person feels. You have to put yourself in their shoes. One of those kind of tacky old sayings, if you will, but the whole idea of trying to place yourself in the position of somebody else, be thinking how they think, feel how they feel, is very, very important for helping you to connect with that person on a certain level that helps to establish trust and helps to establish respect. Very, very important in any relationship, in sales in particular. And then, of course, drive, which is motivated by all the things that we've been talking about, personal discipline and motivation to be able to do well and to achieve your goals. Those things are very important. Now, if you have not paid attention to this, I thought it was important enough to put it into your notes. This comes straight from your textbook, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Make sure you spend some time looking at this. This is something that has been pretty much stood the test of time. It's been around for quite a while and still is very effective in terms of how people relate to each other. So make sure you pay attention to this section in your notes or in your textbook and read up on that. Get familiar with Coveys' 7 Habits. Sales. Is it you? The good news, as Zig Ziglar says, is that everyone has every one of the qualities to be able to be successful. Now, how much of each quality you have will determine how much success you'll need in, how much success you'll meet, rather, in selling or in any other field for that matter. So the idea is we all have these qualities that we're talking about. The question is, how much of them do you have? And honestly, how much can you tap into those different qualities that are available? And one of the ways to determine that is through different types of assessments. To make sure that you're right for the job, a company that hires you is likely to give you a test that will yield a certain psychological profile, and they're going to be looking for certain things. There are 2 in particular that the sales world uses to help determine the qualities of a salesperson, strengths, weaknesses, that sort of thing. The first one that we're going to talk about is the Omaha Profile. The Omaha Profile breaks up salespeople into 3 different types of sales personalities. The first one is the persuasive, also known as the entrepreneur. The persuasive is an aggressive competitor who sells through relationship building, persuasion, and charm. So it's really relying on that personal aspect of the sales relationship, really putting on the attitudes of respect and trust, and using that to the salesperson's advantage. The second personality is the problem solver, also known as the operations personality. The problem solver is an aggressor who needs to win, kind of like the persuasive, but who sells by providing a practical solution to a client's technical problem. So, are you a troubleshooter? Are you somebody that helps to be able to find a solution to a problem? You like to look at a challenge and be able to meet that head on and find ways to be able to solve the particular issue. You might be a problem solver. The third one is the persistent, also called patient. The persistent has the qualities found in both persuasives and in problem solvers, but they also add superior listening skills, team orientation, and the patience that gives this title its alternate name. So here, you're not just developing relationship. You're not just a smooth talker. You're not just a problem solver. You actually listen to the needs of the person that you're talking to, and you're very keenly aware of the things that is going on in the mind of the other person, because you spend a lot of time hearing what they have to say. That's the persistent personality. Okay, let's talk now about some faux sales personalities. These are a couple of personalities that seem like they would be able to fit the part, be able to do the sales role, but when it comes right down to it, they lack some significant qualities to help them to be able to become successful salespeople. First off is the passive charmer, also known as the professional interviewer. The passive charmer has all of the friendly, outgoing charm that a salesperson needs, but winds up being too cautious and security conscious. Now, here's kind of an explanation of what that means from Mary Ruth Austin. What she says about the passive charmer is this. The passive charmer loves making calls and meeting new people, but just can't ask for the order. There's something within them that when they go to actually try to make the sale, to get the potential customer to be able to invest in advertising, that they choke for whatever reason. They can't just ask them for the money or get them to sign or whatever, that it's a roadblock for them. The second faux personality is the technician, also known as the researcher. The technician is well informed, but needs to have things right more than needs to be able to win. So what that means is that a lot of times they will focus too much on protocol. They will focus too much on kind of the logistics of certain things and can't really get past being flexible in those sorts of things, or finding ways to work around some of the issues in order to be able to actually go in and make the sale. So there's that one. And now let's go on to the other main way that businesses will use to be able to assess salespeople. And this one comes from the H.R. Challey Group. In 1991, Challey chairman Howard Stevens and writer Jeff Cox published The Quadrant Solution. And The Quadrant Solution is kind of a unique book. It's a business novel based on customer and sales types. And these are the sales types that are uncovered by H.R. Challey testing. As the title suggests, there are 4 quadrants that customers and sellers fit into. A customer from a specific quadrant is going to be best served by a salesperson who fits the same profile. So if that's a book that you would be interested in reading, it's something you may want to check out. We're going to try our best to kind of delve into some of the particulars of what the book has to say, along with a book that's a little more of a traditional nonfiction book in this sort of realm, How to Select a Sales Force that Sells. This book demonstrates more clearly how the purchase quadrant, the customer quadrant, and the seller quadrant all relate to each other. Now, using the concepts from these books, a seller is matched to the individual needs of a customer. What sort of seller personality is going to work best with what particular type of customer personality? Not everybody can necessarily sell to everybody. Some would be better suited than others. And Challey tries to delve into that and try to explain that in a certain fashion. Challey has 4 different types of sellers. First off, there is the closer. The closer must quickly establish a prospect's emotional desire and need for the product or service. Now, the closer is pretty much actually right at the beginning of the sales relationship, where you're introducing a product or service to a customer for the first time, helping them to establish their need for that product or service and getting them on board. So closing the sale in that aspect, kind of that initial startup of the business relationship, if you will. The second type of seller is the consultative. The consultative works best for intangibles like media and media selling. The consultative sales environment requires patient interpersonal contact or consultation with the customer. So this is, again, taking that relationship and kind of keeping that ongoing conversation happening as to what kind of progress you're making, what kind of problems you're having, how to be able to address certain concerns, all that sort of thing. Also helping them to be able to put a strategy together as far as media advertising is concerned. Say if you're doing a long-term contract, 6 months, a year, something like that, there's going to be different emphases that may happen with certain businesses at different times of the year. And it's something that the media salesperson is going to be able to help address with his or her client. Okay, thirdly is relationship. The relationship seller is largely dependent on the relationships between the seller and the customer. This type of seller can move to a competitor and take a client list along. So if you're looking at sales as a career and you move from company to company for one reason or another, which is not unusual for a salesperson to do. If you're a good enough seller and you establish good relationships with your customers, you may be able to bring your customer list over to the new company instead of leaving them with the old company and trying to start up a new customer base over and over. Just bring your old customers with you and they will buy into the new job that you're working, the new company that you're working for, because sometimes customers will not necessarily follow a certain company, but they'll follow a certain salesperson because of that relationship that is built. And fourthly, the display seller. There's little personal involvement in display selling. This would be kind of falling under the category of things like retail clerks, bank tellers, catalog order takers, where the environment is such that the customer pretty much knows what he or she wants, goes and gets it, and the display seller is the one that basically helps to facilitate that sale. Details on how these sellers interact with different types of customers can be found in the textbook. Look at all the different figures that are in the textbook. If you want details on how these different sellers will work with different types of customers and environments, and putting that all together for our focus for what we're talking about in terms of the actual salespeople, those 4 traits are what we're kind of concerned with this particular model. All right, what is expected of you? As a seller of electronic media, your primary objectives are, first off, developing new business, going out and getting those sales. Secondly, maximizing revenues, trying to get the most from your customers, help them to be able to see the value of all the different products and services that your company offers. And thirdly, retaining current business, helping them to come back over and over and over again. Now, this isn't a job description per se, but it's an overview of your job goals. This is going to be true in just about every different type of sales environment. You want that new business, you want to be able to realize as much revenue as you can, and you want those customers coming back. Sometimes those things can be a little bit at odds with each other, but if you're thinking customer focused, it will help to be able to facilitate those 3 goals that much more, helping the customer to get what he or she needs and providing that in the best possible way that you can by developing that relationship of trust and respect, looking out for their interests, helping them to solve their problems, all these things that we've been talking about, and that will help you to be able to do these 3 different things. There's no single list of duties that will cover every sales job, but here are some typical examples. And it's a pretty extensive list of particulars that we're looking at. First off, the prospect for potential advertisers. Go out and look for people that could benefit from what you have to offer. To provide solutions to advertisers. Help them to see they have a problem and that you can help them solve it. To create value for your medium. To create a competitive advantage for your medium. Why you and not somebody else? To process the orders once the orders are sold. To assure schedules are run as ordered. To assure that billing is handled properly. To monitor other media in your marketplace. So what helps to know why someone should go with you and not with somebody else is to know what the other folks are doing. To understand customers' industries and their goals. If you're selling to a car dealership, understand what a car dealership goes through. Understand a little bit about the business and how they conduct themselves, and the kinds of goals that they have, so that you can help them address ways to be able to help them to meet those goals. To execute your organization's sales strategies. To answer to management. To set personal goals as well as company goals. So this one is very important because, again, that idea of having a positive attitude, having a certain amount of drive, you have to have that for yourself as well as for the sake of the company that you're working for. Finally, to work on goal getting as well as goal setting. Setting goals is very important. It's a great way for a benchmark to happen. But you also need to put into place action steps and actually do those action steps in order to meet the goals that you have. Your manager will work with you. He will outline your job specifically and set the strategies for your selling environment. So there's going to be expectations there from the workplace. You're going to have quotas to fill. There's going to be certain types of assessment on the types of sales that you're making. Often, it's a two-step process. First, corporate management and local sales managers set strategy. Then the selling staff adds plans for tactical implementation of the strategy. So, especially if you're working in a larger company, there's going to be sales goals that's going to be expected from the different markets that they operate in. And then the market manager is going to work on putting those goals into place with the sales department in that particular market. So there's a lot of eyeballs looking to see that the salespeople are meeting and exceeding the goals that are set for them. Structural differences are based on a variety of factors. There's the medium itself. There's the company that owns the facility. There's specific needs of the advertising community. There's the size of the market. There's choices made by local sales management. So all of these different things, the structure in the environment that you are working in is going to play a factor in the way that you are going to conduct yourself and have the ability to do your job and do it well. Now, again, it's not the end-all, be-all. A lot of it has to come from yourself. But depending on the particular environment that you're working in, there may be certain tools and practices and policies in place that would help you to be able to meet those goals.